For the second time in my life, I'm guilty of committing a crime. Being horrifically ill-prepared for my fantasy football draft. 'Cause I doubt my league mates minded my team finishing 3-10, earning the ridicule of not just my friends and family, but of every man, woman, and child I've ever encountered. But this season, I find I'm so excited I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head. I think it's the excitement only a future #FootClan champion can feel. A future champ at the start of a long journey, whose conclusion is dispersing a wide range of insults upon my league mates. Things like, "You're one pathetic loser," or "You must be a major disappointment to your parents," or my personal favorite, "You suck, buttface." You know who's going to be the toilet bowl champion this year? Not me. Not me. To join me on this journey, head to www.ultimatedraftkit.com. I hope to see you there.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome. Always really a treat, a privilege when Morgan stops by.
He's a great friend of the show. Morgan, thanks
always
for
so busy and yet always available.
Morgan endorsing. That's what he does.
Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy Holloway here, joined by Mike, the Fantasy Hitman, right?
That's me.
And Jason the Moore.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Jason,
I'll allow it.
Jason constantly more.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's constantly
I'm just
more
growing.
of him.
Always
I'm
more.
growing
More than you need.
at a rapid rate.
More than you need, more than you want.
More
of the time than you want it. Welcome into the show. We've got a great one. Look, this is the beginning of the ranking shows. We've got our early running back rankings on the podcast today. So we have our consensus rankings. We'll see where we differ, what we think about these players, but we're going to debut them on the show today. 2018 is on the way. It is April 3rd already. So we are in draft month, as we like to say. And I'm excited.
That's what they like to say.
Look.
That's just what Andy likes to say. This is what he likes.
All right. Apparently, Brooks has prepared for us a voicemail quick question. Is that correct, Brooks?
What?
Oh, yeah.
First time ever.
Well, let's just jump into it.
What's up, ballers? It's Ty from Boston. I have a quick two-part question for you. Does pineapple belong on pizza? And either way, yes or no, who is a fantasy player that's like pineapple on pizza, for better or for worse? Thanks.
Well, thank you for that very thoughtful question.
Deep.
I think that we are masters of all things that we are masters of. Food analogies are the best, are what we're best at. So, yes. Jason, I think you would be the right man to lead this one off.
Well, you are correct. There's not more of me for no reason. So the question in here is, what is my opinion of pineapple on pizza, and what player represents pineapple on pizza? I am not like a guy that will go out and order a Hawaiian pizza, but it is good. I enjoy pineapple on a pizza, but I don't really like it. It's not my thing, so it's just one of those.
Now, do you need to have ham on the pizza with the pineapple?
I certainly would want meat on every pizza. I mean, don't be silly. So the way I look at pineapple on a pizza, not something I would order, but I think in the end it works out. And that, to me, is Jimmy Graham. Because you
wouldn't order it.
I'm not drafting Jimmy Graham, but I think it's going to end up working out where he has enough touchdowns to be a top 6 tight end, which is shockingly not that difficult.
Surprisingly.
He'll work out. It's not my tempo.
Okay. All right.
Not my topping.
Not my
topping.
Right there.
Not
my
topping.
All right, so you think Jimmy Graham surprisingly delicious. Wouldn't order it, but if you end up with it, you'll eat it.
Surprisingly okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go I don't eat the pineapple on pizza and go, delicious.
Well,
and I don't do that with Jimmy Graham.
All right. Mike, thoughts on pineapple on
So
a pizza?
here's the thing. Pineapple's great. Pineapple is my favorite fruit
Really?
in the entire world. Pineapple, then strawberries. It's the best.
Okay.
But pineapple does not belong on pizza. It's great by itself. And that's why this player is my pineapple on pizza, because David Njoku is great. The greatness of David Njoku should be unlocked for all to watch, for the NFL to see, for fantasy football players to properly enjoy.
The greatness?
I love it.
David
I love this
Njoku
take,
on
other
the
than-
right team would be fantastic. But he's on the Cleveland Browns. He doesn't belong there the same way pineapple does not belong on pizza. So David Njoku is my pineapple.
I like it. I like
All
the
right.
take.
I am like Jason. I would never order a Hawaiian pizza, but I've been,
I would never order it, and I would say happy birthday to the ground. for
if you had to
Yes.
if you were handed one.
Yes.
You wouldn't pick the pineapple off being your favorite fruit.
No, of course I'm not a savage.
Just like
I'll
you have
pull
to
them
pick
off and then
you
I'll-
have to pick and choose your Njoku weeks.
So you pick them off.
The problem
and
is
you'll
though
eat it.
is that the sweet juices have already infected the pizza.
Oh, okay.
And
So you're
they've
really
changed it.
hands-on. You love pizza, you love
Yes,
pineapple, you
Yes.
just don't put them together.
correct.
You love David Njoku,
Yes,
you don't love the Browns, and you wouldn't
correct.
put them together.
Man,
All right.
we're seeing eye to eye right now.
I would never order it. I've been to many a party where somebody has made that choice. I've eaten the
Everyone's
pizza.
got that friend.
Everybody's got somebody who's like, let's get a Hawaiian, right?
Yeah,
Nobody
and he-
nods, but he still orders
and that
it.
doofus is wearing a Hawaiian shirt too.
Yeah, that's true.
And cargo shorts is like, hey, love pineapple pizza.
So
Yeah.
who's your?
So, do I like it on pizza? Okay, it's all right. More than willing to eat it if the alternative is no pizza at all, and that's how I feel about Sammy Watkins. If I can get a good value on Tyreek Hill, I'd rather have him than Sammy Watkins. But I think I'm probably going to have to swallow down some Sammy Watkins in the later rounds.
you're gonna eat the free pizza at the party.
That's coming back to haunt you
Yeah, I know.
on the sound bites.
I know. It's analogies are a difficult thing and troublesome, and ultimately, we record this podcast and then edit it. So who knows?
Nope.
All
that
right.
one's staying in.
Okay.
Fantastic. Welcome to the show.
The Ultimate Draft Kit available at ultimatedraftkit.com. Presale pricing.
Make sure you let Andy know.
Don't be
on
caught
Twitter.
red-faced on draft day. Get your Ultimate Draft Kit at
Andy
ultimatedraftkit.com.
Holloway on Twitter. Can't wait for your
This is
mentions.
not good. I took a little Twitter break this weekend. Enjoyed the Easter weekend with the family. Did you guys have a good Easter weekend? Mike, did you fill it up, live it up with your April Fool's jokes?
Oh, Chop, please. April Fool's Day is a travesty.
Is the
upon
greatest.
It's a travesty
greatest.
upon this nation.
My son is 9 years old, and he doesn't
This
understand.
is what we get.
He doesn't
This is
understand.
what you deserve.
He thinks it's carte blanche to just be mischievous, and decided to pour water. My 9-year-old pours water on my wife's dress at church as a April Fool's joke. Yeah,
And you deserve it.
and the joke was on us.
You do deserve it.
I do. We do.
I love. Look,
Why do I deserve
because
it?
9-year-olds aren't going
Perpetuating
to
the
get it.
sham of April Fool's
I didn't
Day.
do anything. I just woke up.
My younger one told me we were at church. He goes, "I don't like your pants." April Fools. I was like, "Oh, it got me."
He must really like them.
Yeah.
My children are well aware of my April Fool's stance in
Yeah.
the right household. None of that shenanigans.
So you had nothing happen.
no.
Just silence.
That's yeah.
You made
I didn't speak
you made
a
a
word.
pizza.
I did.
Yeah. Which
Oh man, you want to make Twitter angry? Put peeps on a pizza and see what happens.
so what is the peeps on a pizza player?
Oh, it's terrible.
That's
It's
disgusting.
Not, it's not good. It's just a really funny dad joke. But
Okay.
people were they were upset. They're about to riot.
That's this year's Jordy.
Well, I want to get to these rankings, so let's talk news.
News and notes from around the league.
By the way, you can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We're also on Instagram, instagram.com/fantasyfootballers. We're on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you social media-fy. We're there.
Ooh.
Click that
And-
subscribe.
Click the subscribe button. All right, big news for Jason. The Jets have signed Thomas Rawls, formerly of the Seahawks. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
rev up the Rolls Royce?
You guys are
All he
putting,
has to do is beat out Isaiah Crowell.
Shouldn't be hard.
I like that you guys are throwing this on me. He is on the bottom of my dynasty bench And so I'm happy he got a job. He has an opportunity. It's certainly one he could win. I still, even with Crowell, with Rawls, I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a rookie. I'm not counting Thomas Rawls as a usable asset yet. In fact, if we have to cut players, he's still on the chopping block for me, but at least there is opportunity versus not having a team.
Kendall Wright signed by the Vikings, 1-year contract. Kendall Wright's days in the NFL seem to be numbered.
I mean, he was okay.
Yeah, he's
last
a
year.
depth player. Browns agreed to terms with Jeff Janis.
Yeah, Janice.
Chiefs have signed Matt McGloin.
McGloin.
Chargers have signed Geno Smith, 1-year deal.
We are ridiculous that just in queue, synchronized. We both yell out, my groin.
Yeah, well, I mean,
how many chances are we going to get?
It keeps happening.
That's the reason that's in the news today.
That is the only reason, Brooks.
Good work, Brooks.
Have we reported on the bigger injury news around the office? What? Jason's injury news?
It's not good.
Jason literally sat out of exercise this morning because
That's what I want to do.
Because he decided to cook himself like a lobster in the Arizona sun.
Yeah, I was doing yard work, and I thought, I think I want some color. I'm going to take my shirt off. And then I got a lot of color. Red is the color, and I'm in a lot of pain.
It's funny. I mean, for us, not for you. Mm-hmm. Any other news? Marquette King was cut due to personality issues with John Gruden.
The blurb
is that really
about
the reason?
It is, and it makes perfect sense only because we had been reading more and more about Gruden's clarification on bringing it back to the 80s or 90s or whatever he said was all about veterans in the locker room and defining the locker room culture. So apparently, Marquette King, who had disagreements with the previous regime too, fun-loving.
I love Marquette King, and Marquette King is a fantastic punter.
But Del Rio had problems with him too. Yeah, is what I'm saying. So there must be something that they don't want the distraction.
He was also owed a lot of money for a punter. So the fact that this had to come out is strange.
All right, without further ado, the main event.
Running backs.
We have been asked the question many, many times this offseason. Who do you have at number one at the running back position? Who's the top pick? I think that's what you guys probably get when you're going out and around and someone recognizes you. Who's the top guy? Who's the top guy in fantasy this year? And then most people think, obviously, Peyton Manning. But outside of Peyton Manning.
What? All right.
I would say most people this year, and in fact, when I'm doing best ball drafts, the number one guy off the board most often in the ones I've been involved with has been Todd Gurley, who is our consensus 100% agreed upon number two. He is not our number one guy. We all three right now have in half PPR formats, which is what we always talk, Le'Veon Bell as our number one running back. I mean, these top guys, they're great. We don't need to say too much about them, but I think the conversation is
why Lev over Todd Gurley?
Is why Lev over Todd Gurley.
The reason for me, now, like Jason said, they're all number one. We all have Lev Bell number one. The reason for me has to do with total touch guarantee.
Yep.
Not that I think Gurley's going to not touch the ball a ton this year. It's just I've seen Lev Bell with the high touch counts for multiple seasons on a great offense with all the foundational pieces there, and you just know what you're going to get with Le'Veon Bell. So I'm leaning into that 321 carries over 279 and just expecting Lev Bell to do what he does.
Most running back touches in the league, over 400 touches last year for Le'Veon Bell. He was the only running back with over 300 carries, and there were three running backs that had over 100 targets. That would be Christian McCaffrey, Le'Veon Bell, and Alvin Kamara. Le'Veon Bell had over 300 carries and more targets than Alvin Kamara. He is the number one running back.
Yeah, and the thing is we have enough history here to show that he should be, right? Todd Gurley was drafted to be a stud, looked like he was going to be a stud. Then he had a terrible year, which now in hindsight we blame completely on Jeff Fisher. But you have seen history that has
But we
been
give Fisher
up
no
and
credit
down.
for his first year.
Right, exactly. It's been up and down, whereas Lev Bell is as consistent as humanly possible. And if you look at the consistency charts in the UDK and go to the consistency percentages, there's no one even close at the running back position to what Le'Veon Bell does. When he plays, he's great and always has been as soon as he became the guy. And he's still young, so I don't think there's any question here of it's not a tough decision for me. When I'm on the clock at the 101, I don't actually go, what are the upsides? Could Gurley outproduce him this year? Absolutely.
But by how much?
But the ceiling is, I would say, identical with both of these guys. The floor to me is very different, barring injury.
So Lev Bell caught 85 passes last year, 7.1 reception or targets per game. Total yardage, Gurley outmatched him through the air, big plays. But 7.1 targets per game, number one in the league in terms of running backs. Does the lack of Todd Haley concern either of you for the game plan, or is this
because it's
more of the same?
Because Big Ben is the quarterback, it doesn't change things for me. It's like Peyton Manning offenses. I didn't care who the OC was for Peyton Manning. I know what he's going to do, and I know how he's going to run the offense.
Yeah, and the new offensive coordinator is, was the quarterback coach. Same system. They're not going to change what is working so well.
You mean they're not bringing Steve Sarkisian in?
Right.
Oh
yes.
my goodness, he was almost my pineapple.
Oh,
on the pizza?
Yeah.
that would have
okay.
been.
Like, doesn't belong on the pizza. Yeah, Sarkisian doesn't belong calling plays for the Falcons.
Yeah, but that would
He was
insinuate
almost
that
my
you also
pineapple.
really like Sarks. Which
No, you can format it either
Okay,
way. I'm just,
all right.
I was leaving it as pineapple doesn't belong.
So now, the Todd Gurley side of the equation.
Yes, we do have him as our consensus number 2.
The Todd Gurley side of the equation, to me, look, he is super talented. You saw that. You see him used in the right fashion. We were all wanting him to be utilized in the passing game, and that's great. But what stands out to me as a possible regression point is the receiving touchdowns.
Yes.
Last season, he had 6 receiving touchdowns. That is a very high number, and it's not a number that you see a lot of running backs repeat in any kind of, year after year after year. Could he get more than 13 rushing touchdowns? I mean,
Yeah.
possibly.
He
Yeah,
could.
he could.
In that offense, he could do it.
But my point is, I expect Todd Gurley's total touchdown number to come down this season. The same way that going into last year, I thought David Johnson wasn't going to get 20 touchdowns from coming off that 2016 season. So that is my worry with Todd Gurley is his touchdown volume. I realize that the offense looks good. He looks great. The workload will be there. He's the number 2, but I do think his touchdowns come down.
It's not just the passing touchdowns; it's the passing yardage.
Right.
His rookie year, he was 7.6, or I apologize. Rookie year, 9.0 yards per reception. Sophomore year, when it was bad, 7.6. He jumped up to 12.3 yards per reception. That's not a sustainable number. And if you watch the Tennessee Titans game, when Todd Gurley had the huge reception that inflated things and a couple of the big plays, he will still get the targets. He had the 4th highest target percentage for running backs. He had a higher target market share than Duke Johnson. And this is Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I trust McVay to
Yes.
be creative enough to get him the ball in the passing game and get him in space. But you're right. Those are a couple points there where Lev Bell was targeted more, had a decent, 150 fewer yards through the air than Gurley. So that could come down a little bit. Gurley was technically the most consistent running back last year, even over Le'Veon Bell. Both of them only busted one time on the entire year based on our
that's
consistency.
nice.
And, 52.5 receiving yards per game. That's a ton. You're getting that David Johnson-like performance from the year before from Todd Gurley. He's our consensus number 2. Anything else you want to add on Gurley?
Nope.
We're going to start to get into the much more debatable
Yes.
group here. And I think we'll start with that debate right here.
David Johnson.
David Johnson is our consensus number 3.
We got
By
to
the
warm
way,
up the band.
This
Get the
is,
band ready.
Yeah, Jason, you noticed, didn't sing, and I know why. He has him ranked. He has him ranked 4, not 3. Mike and I have him at 3. And David Johnson returns from injury. He played half a game last year, and here we are. The number 1 running back in fantasy in 2016. By the way, these rankings are based on a half point per reception scoring format.
You could just say the right scoring format.
I could, but I don't want to, alienate our listeners who play in totally acceptable but inferior scoring systems.
Like me.
Like Brooks.
Yeah, we still
Get
love
out
you,
of here,
Brooks.
Full PPR.
Hey, don't chime
Wow,
in again.
he said that with like a
Oh yeah,
that was like a political party he's supporting over there. So David Johnson, Jason, you'll have to explain why you have him and
all the way down at number 4.
Ezekiel Elliott flip-flopped.
Sure.
Kind of how we described the differences between Bell and Gurley. But David Johnson coming off the injury, healthy. The story for me, if you have to write the narrative for David Johnson, is he's going to get the ball a ton. Is the team good enough to get him in a position to score? I don't worry about touches with David Johnson, barring health issues, which we always presume health in these situations. I don't worry about touches. I worry about touchdowns. Is that fair, Mike?
That is completely fair. The volume will be there in 2016, though. I mean, just remember.
Let's remember. Let's go back in time.
Oh, do we got a flashback button?
I don't.
No, but 20 total touchdowns, over 2,100 yards from scrimmage. The thing that has some hope for David Johnson, I mean, Sam Bradford, when he's healthy, can be a good quarterback. But the Cardinals have spent offseason money to upgrade their offensive line. Justin Pugh, Andre Smith, they've brought guys in. Are those guys the answer? I'm not sure, but at least they're addressing the situation. And if the offensive line can be strong, and the new Cardinals appear to be trying to set themselves up to be defense and David Johnson. So the volume would be there. A player with 80 receptions. I mean, that's ridiculous. So he's going to get the ball, but the 16 rushing touchdowns is not it's not obtainable.
It is important that people remember David Johnson, the receiving aspects to his game they're a feature of his game. They're not an accident.
Yeah, right.
They target him in the passing game because you should target him in the passing game. Larry Fitzgerald's the only proven receiver on that team. So David Johnson will very much I think you can make the argument right now he is the wide receiver 2 for the RB1 and the wide receiver 2 for the Cardinals.
Absolutely correct. And he came out of college, he was a wide receiver at one point in time, came out, I believe in 2016, Pro Football Focus, when they do their scoring and ranking, their number one wide receiver ranked was David Johnson, a running back. So, yeah, you're right, Andy. It's not like, Sean McVay came to town and figured out I should get my running back into a scheme. It was much more so of if you're not utilizing David Johnson in the passing game, so I'm not worried. Change of offensive coordinator, they're still going to use him there. I completely echo everything you said. The touchdowns themselves are the worry. The offense as a whole.
Sure.
But
so number
me,
4. Let's move on to number 4, and then
it's-
you can explain
that's
it.
That's where I was going. For me, it's not so much an argument against David Johnson. It's a reminder of how good Ezekiel Elliott is. Ezekiel Elliott missed games. Ezekiel Elliott was out of shape. He was fat. Oh, have you seen the pictures lately? He's so overweight this offseason.
Jason
Get
Moore.
your life together, Ezekiel. Accept.
Is that one below the belt?
I'm saying this. Look, no, I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's what the people. I see this. I read this. That's what the people are saying. Oh, he's so fat.
We're making fun of you, Jay. That's what we were doing. He was making fun of you, and then he asked me if it was below the belt, and I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. We didn't think that you were being below the belt with Zeke.
Okay. But my point is this. Last season, on a per-game basis, because you have to go per game with Zeke since he was suspended for several games, he was better than Alvin Kamara. He was right behind Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he has 19 points a game and half-point scoring. He was actually ahead of Le'Veon Bell in standard scoring, and he comes in rookie year and was unfathomably good. His sophomore year, he's unfathomably good, and he's dropping in ranks. So I'm saying, stop it. I have no worries with Zeke. He has never shown me anything to think he's not consistent, he's not going to get the ball, he's not going to get the touchdowns, and he still has the areas where he could still improve by being more involved in the passing game, a la Todd Gurley. So I just say, why would I draft David Johnson with all the question marks, over a Zeke? That's where I stand.
First off, there's the eternal fantasy football debate of Alvin Kamara or Alvin Kamara. Somehow Jason did them both.
Yes, I did
in one pronunciation. So tip of the cap to you.
It was tough. I've been training.
But here's the numbers for Zeke. He had the one outlier game, if you remember, against Denver, where he was 9 for 8 on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So that means his numbers.
Right.
In 9 games, he had 233 carries, almost 1,000 yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns. That's almost 110 rushing yards per game.
The dude's good.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, Mike and I have him at 4, so we don't have a great departure here. I still lean on the side of the reception totals.
That's fair.
Because this is the difference between these teams, these question marks you bring up. I mean, yes, you have Dak Prescott, but this was a 9-7 Dallas team and an 8-8 Cardinal team with similar pieces and maybe 50 more receptions for David Johnson. So that's where I lean. It's splitting hairs. I guess you could also split them on the side of, okay, is Zeke going to stay out of trouble, and is David Johnson going to stay healthy? And you have to ask yourself that question. So, fair enough?
Yeah. I think that's laid out.
All right, before we lay out number 5 on our
which
top
feels
10
like a tier break for
rankings.
me.
Yes, I would say that. Before we get into number 5, we do want to thank today's sponsor, Fantasy Champs. Look, if you're just tuning in and you haven't heard of Fantasy Champs, well, shame on you. Shame on you for tuning in this late.
Shame on you for never hearing something.
How dare you?
FantasyChamps.com is the absolute best place to go for fantasy football trophies. They have custom fantasy football jerseys. They have fantasy football rings. You can get your draft boards. So if you're going to do a live draft and you need a draft board, there's no place better than FantasyChamps.com. Use the promo code BALLERS when you go over there. It's as simple as that. There's not some great big sell here. There is great products.
Yeah, if you want the best products, that's where you go.
Yeah, I actually just saw, I don't know if it was in a tweet, but I saw a picture of their warehouse of all these golden trophies lined up, getting ready for the 2018 season. It's simple. Go to FantasyChamps.com if you want some gear for your league.
The promo code is BALLERS.
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 Save a little bit of quiche. And a reminder, the Ultimate Draft Kit is available for pre-order. This is the cheapest possible price. The Ultimate Draft Kit, it stays updated all off season. This bad boy will launch on June 1st. That's when you can get in and you can see the 100-plus video profiles, all of our projections for every fantasy relevant player, the regular lists like the sleepers, the breakouts, the busts, all of that stuff is available. But I want to emphasize, we don't sleep on it. We don't hit publish and then it's done. News happens, we're scrambling. I'm waking Andy up at 3 a.m. Dude, we got to change the projections.
That's why it's called Ultimate.
It's
It's the ultimate draft. It's not the
draft
It's
kit.
not the unnecessary draft
It's
kit.
not the ultimate.
Ooh, I
No.
like it.
It's the ultimate. So check it out, ultimatedraftkit.com.
How do we not own UDK.com?
It's very.
UDK. You got to get your UDK.
Let's check.
all right.
That's Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
say,
that's-
we
there's a
know,
good reason.
We know why. Because
I
Epic,
like how you bring that up just publicly on the show. Like,
because Epic Games owns that.
yeah,
I don't think they're
that's
selling.
why. That's the answer. All right, number 5.
Why don't we own Gears of War? Have we thought of this?
It's a good question, Mike.
I used to say that about Facebook. Now I'm not so sure. Kareem Hunt is the number 5 on our list. Ironically, he's our number. All of us have him at 6, but he just falls in as our consensus number 5 because of where we have other players lined up. So Kareem Hunt, number 5. Jason, you said it kind of felt like a tier break.
Yeah, I think the top 4, right? David Johnson, Zeke, Lev Bell, Todd Gurley. Those feel really safe, really sure.
Those are comfortable.
And now you get to the next tier where you've got
Like an old couch.
absolutely great options at running. Running back this year is far deeper when it comes to stud running backs than it was last year and the year prior going into draft season. But while there are still great options on the board, like the next 4 or 5 we'll name, there's a lot more questions. Now with Kareem Hunt, okay, Spencer Ware coming back. How does that affect him? Alex Smith, the quarterback,
Gone.
changing. Does the offense get worse? Does the offense get better? There's just a lot more murkiness here, and you'll find with a lot of these players, especially dealing with last year's rookies that were so great, you just don't have a large enough sample size to have, surety on Le'Veon Bell. You've got the year after year after year progress where you can bank on. Todd Gurley, you thought you had it after year 1, then he had a lousy year 2. So this is what we're dealing with here. That's why Kareem Hunt feels like a tier break to me and is my 6th best player.
Broke 48 tackles last year, the most in the NFL I believe he was also the rushing leader.
He was.
Kind of a feather in the cap for a running back to lead the league in
certainly
rushing.
is. Todd Gurley would have been the leader had he played the final week, but yes.
But you had kind of a, I don't know if I want to call it a roller coaster. I mean, it was like you were gobbling up fantasy points in the beginning of the year with Kareem Hunt, the value, where you got him, league-winning type guy. Then your stomach got a little sick for a little while there.
Yeah.
Thanks to mostly we blame Andy Reid for that.
Yes.
Underutilization, but that is built in, that is baked into the risk with Kareem Hunt. And then he finished the year very strong, and he still caught 53 passes. So he checks that box when you want an elite running back. You want him to be involved in the passing game. And look, 53 catches on 63 targets. That's great.
And we do have at least the narrative street hype train. Andy Reid has already said he wants Kareem Hunt further involved in the passing game. So if he can go up from 50-plus receptions, that's huge. He was number 1 in yards after contact, more than Lev, more than Todd Gurley.
But can he catch fireballs from Pat Mahomes? Does he wear a certain – do you have to wear a certain, like, heat-protecting glove when you –
It's called oven mitts.
Yeah.
Oven mitts for Kareem Hunt, and then he will be fine.
That's what
I think that'll make it a little difficult to catch.
Eric Ebron's had those on for years, and it has not helped.
There was
old oven mitts.
There is a old oven mitts, they call them.
Yeah.
There is a direct correlation with running backs getting touches and running backs being awesome for fantasy football. And Kareem Hunt was one of only 6 running backs that had more than 300 touches. So I feel very confident in the volume for Kareem Hunt.
So if you had to give him a risk
overall,
a risk rating, okay,
I would give him a.
What's the risk on Kareem Hunt versus those first 4?
The first 4?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, those first 4, except David Johnson, I said would give him a little bit of a higher risk rating as well. But I agree that Hunt is – the chance of Hunt being a one-year wonder is far higher than David Johnson. But
mostly because David Johnson's been in the league longer.
Yeah, but Kareem Hunt is a fantastic running back. He will get the volume, but you do have to deal with the Andy Reid shenanigans of – there's going to be a few weeks here and there where Kareem Hunt just doesn't get the ball.
All right. It's time for Jason's number 5 running back, my 7, Mike's 8, and our consensus, number 6.
Should be 5.
So just to count them up, Lev Bell, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, and now Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon coming in at number 6. Well, Jason, you have to be the man to make the case here with him at number 5. And
I actually think it's a pretty easy case to make.
Last year he finished the year, what, 5?
The
year before was 7, so 5 seems...
I believe this last season he was the 7th ranked.
Last year he was 5.
Yeah, last year he was 5, and then in 2016 he was the 7th ranked. So consistency-wise, he's been in that top 10, but you believe he stays around 5?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he's missed some games. We forget how on fire he was 2 years ago because he
did he miss any games last year?
I'm saying in this career. I'm saying when you look back at the sample when he had his sophomore campaign where he broke out and was dominant. I mean, he was so good. What did you say? He finished 5th?
7th.
He was 7th, but he only played
dominant.
Yes, he was fantasy dominant. I know you're going to bring up the efficiency, and that's why you don't like him. But this is where I see a team trending in the right direction. They have their workhorse. There's no reason on planet Earth why the San Diego Chargers, why the Los Angeles Chargers would not want to utilize him when he's been so successful for their team for real NFL football. And the reality is, I think the Chargers are taking a step forward. They've improved their offensive line. I think their offense looks great. Their defense looks great. I have them projected to the playoffs. And if they, as a team, are taking that next step up and they're great the way that I believe they're going to be, Melvin Gordon is going to be a huge part of that. And at the end of the year, he's going to be a top 5 running back, or maybe he's 6 or 7, but I see a lot fewer reasons to say he could drop out of the top 12. Barring injury, there's just no way. Whereas some of these other question marks, Kareem Hunt, Alvin Kamara, maybe their roles change. We haven't seen that established. That's where I love Melvin Gordon.
Interesting fact for Gordon, and make of it what you will. He broke 40 tackles, which was the second most in the NFL. He was also stuffed 68 times, the second most in the NFL. So he was put in a position.
Bad offensive line play.
Yeah, I was going to say that does seem to lean itself to Bad offensive line play. The volume was there, so he made it work, and 58 receptions goes a long way towards that. Mike, you have him the lowest at 8. Obviously still a top 10 back. We're splitting hairs here in the first 10 running backs, but why is Melvin not as high as he is for you as he is for Jason?
It's just liking other players more than Melvin Gordon.
No. It's because you hate Melvin Gordon, and you always have. Admit the truth, Mike.
I've admitted the truth many, many times that I'm not fully convinced that Melvin Gordon is a great running back. I think he's fine. And like I said, the correlation of touches, Melvin Gordon gets touches. So I've admitted defeat that Melvin Gordon will be fine for fantasy football. And I even brought up I wrote a note for Jason's defense of a lot of people like, okay, Austin Eckler, what's going on with that? With the passing role, Eckler, I saw him in there catching passes. The games where Austin Eckler got his most targets of the year, Jacksonville, Austin Eckler got 5 targets. Melvin Gordon got 8.
Mm-hmm.
He still got targeted.
That's delicious.
Against Denver, Austin Eckler got 4 targets. So did Melvin Gordon. So the games where Eckler was being heavier or had heavier utilization in the passing game, so did Melvin Gordon. The touches are going to be there. He's a good.
He's not as exciting to own, is what it seems like. You didn't have a lot of monstrous plays. You just had production.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
he finally broke 1,000 yards.
1,100, didn't he?
Dude, that's so not fair to him. What was he, 997 yards in 13 games?
It is certainly not fair.
And yet, a fact. All right, number 7. Number 7 on our consensus top 10 running back ranks. The way too early running back ranks, but not really too early. Right time. Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, number 7. I have him at 8. Jason 7. Mike, you got him up at 5.
I do.
That's interesting. I didn't realize you had him so high.
Last
year, 268 carries, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, caught 36 passes for 302 yards. So,
do you think people are freaking out right now as we keep naming names and they're going, "Where's Alvin Kamara?"
Oh.
No, I think
don't
some
think
people
so.
are. Good.
Well,
Anyways, back to Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette, 13 games last year, so he had the injury bug a little bit. Averaged 20.6 carries per game, 3rd highest in the league.
That's why he's 5 for me.
Yeah, and that's fair. To me, he is he's like a step down from Zeke, but they're in the same category together. Where I'm not going. Maybe they can surpass 35 receptions, but I'm not banking on either player having more than 30, 35 receptions.
It's just the touches. But speaking of,
But they're going to be a good team.
Yes, they will be a great team. But speaking of risk factors, Leonard Fournette's has to be very high. So many leg injuries. This is not a fluke lacerated kidney. This is things repeatedly happening to his lower body, which gives me great concern. But if he plays 16 games, Leonard Fournette is going to be an absolute monster. You gave the line of 268 carries. That was in 13 games.
It's ridiculous.
He's going to be over 300 carries. And he's going to get goal line, and he'll have rushing touchdowns. So he's 5 for me right now.
All right, anything you want to add on Fournette, Jason?
Just his consistency. I mean, Leonard Fournette genuinely is one of the most consistent backs this last year. You bring up the 13 games and how good he was in those games. There was very rarely did he ever, poop your team.
Wow.
If he was playing, because of the volume.
Well said.
So I really like Leonard.
They also picked up Andrew Norwell. They
hurt.
stole a very, very good guard from the market from Carolina. So Andrew Norwell arrives in Jacksonville. Leonard Fournette doesn't get enough credit for the turnaround in Jacksonville, in my opinion. And I know, Mike.
I completely disagree with this.
I know, but you have to just watch. Watch the games.
Yeah.
And there are before when they had Ivory or they had Yeldon or somebody else. You need somebody who falls forward. You need somebody who moves the pile. And they had not. There's few guys in the league that when you hand them the ball and they run into a giant pile, they always gain a couple yards. Lynch used to do that all the time. He is their Marshawn Lynch, the way that Seattle drove their offense through Marshawn. That's how Jacksonville wants to do it. Take the pressure off of Bortles and just run the ball.
It really is true. And to combine that with what I was saying consistency-wise, if you look over the last 2 years, The consistency percentage for making sure you finish as an RB2 or better, RB1 or 2, so that you're having a good week. Last year, the data was David Johnson was 100% because he only played the one game. Then it went Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, Zeke, Leonard Fournette. I mean, if he's playing, he's a win for your fantasy roster.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But we disagree that Fournette's impact on the actual NFL team.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
I side with Andy on this one.
Okay.
All right. You might not on this one. Number 8 on our consensus rankings is Alvin Kamara, Super Camario. Hey! He's my number 5, guys.
I don't blame you.
I read a really good – you know what convinced me is I read this really good article.
I mean, I don't agree with you.
I read this article on a website, thefantasyfootballers.com, written by an expert in the industry. And it made the case for Alvin Kamara this year, and I think that there is room to grow. Last year, this super, incredible, unstoppable, unbelievable year for Alvin Kamara, 120 carries. Had 81 receptions, 826 yards, obviously did all of his damage through the air, but I still think there is room to grow for Alvin Kamara, and I do not – look, this is a hand-picked choice by Peyton. This is a team that was on – it was one Diggs catch away from being in the title game. I don't think things are going to change very much for this roster. So then do you believe that he can be as efficient as he was last year? Probably not, but I think he'll compensate for that in kind of a replication of the second half utilization, which went up proportionally. Him and Ingram, he got more of the carries. He got a lot more in the playoffs, and I think that they're going to use him. The big number that everybody's afraid of, yet should be excited about, was that 7.7 yards per touch. You're afraid of it because nobody's ever done that for their career, and nobody's ever going to do that for their career. And you like it because that means you're a special, special player. So you guys, Jason, you've got him the lowest. You got him at 9. I don't really take issue with anybody who doesn't want to buy into my narrative. I just believe in him.
Your narrative in that article was fantastic, which is basically you laid out the case for why his volume should and will go up. And I really like that. Because that's what you need for Kamara to replicate what he did last year. He needs a little bit more volume. And my issue, the reason I've got him lowest, I've got him at 9, is because I don't have to project any of the other guys that I've got ahead of him for some kind of magical increase in volume. And volume is the most predictable stat that we have, especially for running backs, to predict success in fantasy. It's not touchdowns. It's not utilization in passing game versus being a goal line back. It's how many times do they get to touch the ball. And while I love Alvin Kamara, he was my bold prediction last year to be a top 3 rookie running back. I really like the talent, and he could absolutely – that's why I say I don't blame you for having him at 5. I've got him ranked at 9 because in order for him to meet kind of what projections I'm giving, he has to have a huge workload increase. And, I hope it happens, but I'm not going to bank on it.
Yeah, there was only 2 running backs in the top 10 of fantasy points that weren't in the top 10 in touches. And that was Ezekiel Elliott and Alvin Kamara.
And that's because excluding his rushing stats, he would have been the wide receiver 21 in PPR leagues.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel as cozy as your running back 1 if you draft him to be it. The way that a Fournette or Zeke or Bell or Johnson, any of those bigger, more guaranteed touch players, but I do think he will perform to that level. He obviously has to stay healthy, being a smaller back, can't have concussion issues. He got banged up last year once with a concussion. There's a lot of confidence I have in Sean Payton to use him. So, but if Mark Ingram had as good of a year, it's still possible, and you don't have to deal with an Ingram in the backfield of all those other guys. So I definitely understand if you want to tick him down the list a little bit. Mike, you have him at 7, Jason 9. Our number 9 running back on our early running back rankings, Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook injured last season, but before he was injured, averaged 15 fantasy points per game, was excellent. A bit of a surprise for those that maybe were worried about his combine performance, but my confidence in Dalvin Cook comes down to how good I think this team's going to be. And if you're going to be a top 5 team in your conference, and this guy can catch the ball, this guy can run the ball, and you're going to have to worry about Kirk Cousins and those wide receivers, I just think the opportunities are going to be through the roof for them. Great defense, a lot of games that they're going to lean on him. Is that pretty much why you guys have him in the same boat? Jason, 8. Mike, you have him at 11.
Yeah, look, when he played last year, he was great. This is a matter of if he was healthy, and we knew he was healthy, he could be higher than this in the rankings. This is all a matter of how does he come back from that injury. This is an injury where at his age and at the recovery timeline that he's been given because of how early that injury happened in the year, he should be ready to go full strength by week 1. So that's kind of what I'm projecting him forward. And if that's the case, the coaching staff has already talked about he's the guy. They're not going to shy away because of the injury. They're going to give him the work. And on a team with so many weapons, you're not going to be able to just stack the box. You got Kirk Cousins and Kendall Wright now screaming out of the slot. That would be great. The new offensive tactic to throw the D off. But no, I mean, you saw there were a lot of people worried after the combine, but he did what he did in college, which was electrify, break off big runs. You get used fantastically in the passing game, and I think the offense gets better. He's back. He's the workhorse, and I don't believe this is projecting a new workload for him. It's merely projecting health.
Pretty comfy at number 9, but
Well, the question for Dalvin Cook is what does the receiving game look like?
Yes.
Because last year in his 3.5 games, he had 11 receptions on 16 targets. In the first 3 games, Jerick McKinnon took 10 targets. Jerick McKinnon is not there. Latavius Murray is the current backup, and Latavius Murray did not get targets in the Minnesota's passing game. So is Dalvin Cook all of a sudden soak up everything they had planned for McKinnon last year?
Probably not everything, but it certainly sounds like a bump up.
all right. Number 10, Shady, you're still in the top 10. Number 10 overall, LeSean McCoy. Last year he was pretty darn good. 287 carries, 1,138 yards, 6 touchdowns, caught 59 passes for 448 yards and 2 touchdowns on 77 targets. Into the year as the RB7. We've got him at 10 right now. This is a product of liking other teams and situations and players more than what we like in Buffalo?
No, not for me.
What is it for you?
This is a Shady scare for me. I recognize he's great.
Don't throw shade on the shady one, man.
Look, last year I didn't see anything that said he lost a step, right? He looked great, but he is entering 30. He has crossed the threshold of carries where you have seen a history of other great running backs who fall off. And there was nothing in 2 years ago's film to say that DeMarco Murray was done. He looked great 2 years ago, but as soon as some injuries started creeping up into Murray at this age, all of a sudden, it was difficult, and it impacted his ability to produce. So you combine that with the Bills looking like, who's the quarterback? What's the offense going to be like? He's older. My risk rating for him is going to be high. Because
I just don't know how those variables are different than what they've been. Like, they've had quarterback problems.
Well,
they've had offensive line problems. They'd have offense problems for 3 years. And he was 4th and then 7th, and then, he'll be top 10.
It's been a slow trend downward. And I mean slow because it's not like he's fallen off anywhere, but he has trended to downward the last 2 years. Now he's also a year older. I mean, 30 is usually that scary age for a running back.
Melvin Gordon wishes he could do what Shady McCoy did last year.
Absolutely. I'm not saying Shady had a bad year. I'm just saying there are markers that scare me, and that's why.
Would you count that as trending down the last 2 years when he went from 16th to 4th?
Well, his efficiency did go down. I mean, this was technically his worst year in a while. But you also have, it's pointed out, I believe it was Mike Clay pointed this out, the percentage of Shady McCoy's carries from shotgun, where he's great. And 3 years ago, 67%, 2 years, 43%. Last year, 17%.
Right.
You have a coaching staff that seems to want to force their agenda upon the players instead of really utilizing the strengths of their players.
But got themselves to the playoffs.
So why would they change? Why would they change? It's working. He had his lowest yards per carry of his entire career.
Yeah.
So those are the markers for me. But he's great. He's used in the passing game. He's a goal line guy. He's fantastic. Looked great last year.
I think if Shady saw himself in the double digits here,
chip on the shoulder.
He'd shake his head at you.
I believe
say,
he
watch
would.
this.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for the top 10. Mike, you want to run them back?
All right, we got number 1. Le'Veon Bell. Number 2, Todd Gurley. 3 is David Johnson. 4, Ezekiel Elliott. 5, Kareem Hunt. 6, Melvin Gordon. 7, Leonard Fournette. Number 8, Alvin Kamara. Number 9, Dalvin Cook. And number 10, the shadiest of the shady, LeSean McCoy.
All right, we are going to take a couple seconds, jump into the mailbag. Somebody give me a Kindle Wright mailbag drop.
Mailbag.
Throw me the ball. Throw the ball. Did you go with words? I just shouted.
No, I just shouted,
Okay.
but then I followed it with a mailbag shout.
Brooks is losing his mind over there. If you have a question for the show, you can be featured in the mailbag segment. 302-464-TFFB is the phone number.
Screaming out of the slot.
You can also submit a question on the website. Just screaming out of the slot. We're going to start with a voicemail.
Hey, ballers. This is James calling you from across the valley in Gilbert. Love the show, but I have a question about Dynasty. I'm taking over a Dynasty team this year. It's going to be my first year doing a rookie draft. How do you guys look at valuing draft picks versus players? I was offered a trade for Marlon Mack and Aaron Jones, and I'd be giving up the 103 pick. Just not sure how to, focus on what's the best way to value those picks. Thanks, guys. Love the show.
Now, I would say that is your league partner is looking at someone who's not sure how to value rookie picks and hoping to pull one over on you.
Correct.
Not that I dislike either of those players. I am on the side that Aaron Jones will be the running back for the Green Bay Packers, but the actual value when you're just talking in a dynasty league, the 103 is a lot higher than these two players combined. Right or wrong, I'm not saying that the 103, whoever you take there, is a guarantee more than Marlon Mack or Aaron Jones. Just saying the perceived value in these actual rookie drafts is much higher than that.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I would agree with that. This question comes in from Zach in Seattle. I play in a league where the vast majority of owners are lifelong fans of the Seahawks. Players from Seattle are consistently overvalued as a result. How do I use this to my advantage?
Oh, do you see
He also
this
said P.S. Brooks is number 1.
Ooh.
What is –
Not based on our Dynasty League finish, but I get what you're saying. Just
Yeah, so how do you take advantage of a league where everyone likes Seahawks? Here's what you don't do. You don't get too cute with it. You don't go after the Seahawks players and try to draft them a little bit higher than they do because they'll pay up later. What you do is you take advantage of the fact that they're making foolish picks, and you just stick with the plan. Draft tier-based and grab better value because someone's grabbing Tyler Lockett in the 6th round.
Yep.
And, the other thing I would say, to steal all of them from you guys, is on the waiver wire, that's where if you can scoop up someone early before they break out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with one of your last picks, if I'm in this league, honestly, I might draft Darbo.
Yeah.
And see, maybe a week 1 breakout happens because they'll pay through the nose for that player.
If other people aren't already drafting Darbo.
Yes, of course.
Hometown players.
What's the tight end there as well? That
Fournette?
Oh,
yes.
Hometown players are great throw-ins for trades too, because if you've got a trade that's right on the cusp, and I'm always a big fan of the 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals where you get the best player back. If you're throwing, one running back plus Darbo or plus some player that Lockett, then they're like, oh, I get my guy back. I get one to root for my hometown team. All right, tight end question from Oliver in Spring, Texas. What tight end has the highest upside who has the safest floor? All right, let's say that again. What tight end has the highest upside? Okay, so that's one question.
All right.
And then who has the safest floor?
Gronk.
And that's out of these players. Trey Burton, George Kittle, Luke Wilson. Highest upside's got to be Trey Burton.
I'll answer the question with this. Trey Burton has the highest upside, and Trey Burton has the safest floor.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do too. I do as well. I think there's a lot more question marks on Kittle and Wilson.
Agreed. All right, Brandon in Connecticut. Hey, guys, love the show. Who do I keep? Lev Bell is a first-rounder, or do I keep hooked on a Thielen in the 6th?
That's
Lev in the 1st, hooked on a Thielen in the 6th. Adam Thielen. 12-team league, one keeper. You got to trade that spot. So here's how I like to do these. Mike, you're giving me the finger, as in the pointer finger.
The pointer finger thing.
To say you had something to say.
Being rude.
Would you like me to finish, or do you want to?
No, you go ahead.
Not too excited? All right. I like to think of these things and evaluate them as who would I end up drafting in that first round, hypothetically, and do I like them plus Thielen versus Lev Bell? So,
well, you should
in
throw
this
then
league
the
and the sixth rounder in there.
Yeah.
But in this league, with one keeper, big-time running backs, you got to imagine the Gurleys and Johnsons and Zekes. Some of them are likely kept, and it depends on where you're drafting from. But let's give a hypothetical, and you can end up with Melvin Gordon and Adam Thielen. Would you rather have those two players over Le'Veon Bell?
Again, I need the player in the 6th round. What I'm looking at here, it's only a 2 wide receiver, and it's a standard league.
It's going to be a much worse player than Adam Thielen.
Yes, I agree. But it's a standard league, and it's only 2 wide receivers. So because of that, I'll just take the sure value of Le'Veon Bell.
Jason?
Yeah, I think you could go either direction and build a great team, but I'm with Mike. I would rather have the locked-in, solid, running back 1 or worst case running back 3 on my roster in this format.
All right, that is it for today's mailbag. We've got another show on Thursday. We'll be talking the rest of our early running back rankings, so do not miss that. More guys with bigger debates about their performance and how they'll play this year, which means that we'll probably be fighting a little bit in the studio. And we'll do a Sats on Thursday. We'll have the JoinTheFoot.com show on Thursday as well. And don't forget to check out draft.com/ballers if you want to play some best ball with us. That's draft.com/ballers. Thank you for tuning in, listening, subscribing. We always appreciate all of your support.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.